In the stillness of night, when dreams float gently in our minds, a story rises, one not just of greatness, but of the quiet determination that builds legends. This is not just the tale of a man who soared, but of the boy who believed he could. Tonight, we journey through the rise of Michael Jordan, from humble beginnings to becoming the icon behind Air. Michael Jeffrey Jordan was born in Brooklyn, New York, on February 17, 1963. The family later moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, where his story truly began. As a child, Michael wasn't the tallest or the strongest, but he had a fire, something no one else could see. Yet, he was cut from his high school varsity team. Most would have quit, but Jordan didn't. Every early morning, every lonely evening, he practiced, not to prove others wrong, but to prove himself right. The court became his sanctuary, and failure his fuel. At the University of North Carolina, he quickly rose from freshman to national champion. In 1982, with the championship on the line, a young Jordan made the game-winning shot. It was a glimpse. The world hadn't yet met Air Jordan, but he had entered the air. In 1984, Michael Jordan was drafted by the Chicago Bulls. The city was cold, the team was struggling. But fans quickly realized this young man was different. His dunks weren't just powerful, they were poetry. Injuries, doubters, Detroit's bad boys. Michael faced them all and still rose. In 1991, the Bulls won their first NBA championship, then a second, and a third. Jordan didn't just win, he transformed basketball. In 1993, Jordan's father, James Jordan, was murdered. Devastated, Michael retired. Baseball gave him peace, but the court was calling. In 1995, he returned. 2 words, "I'm back," and the world watched in awe. Another three-peat followed, then retirement, then Washington Wizards. He was older, slower, but the greatness never left. Michael Jordan didn't just dominate, he redefined greatness. The shoes, the brand, the mindset. Be like Mike was not just a slogan, it became a dream. When you're young, dreams come quietly, like shadows in the moonlight. For Michael, that dream was to fly, not in the sky, but on the court. While others slept, he dribbled. While others doubted, he believed. The quiet fire in a child's heart often burns the longest. Dolores and James Jordan weren't just parents, they were pillars. His mother taught him grace, his father grit. Family was his foundation. In every game, you could feel the echo of their love. For Michael, basketball was never just a sport. It was breath. It was rhythm. The bounce of the ball, a heartbeat, the swish of the net, a whisper of destiny. Greatness is not born in comfort. It's shaped by rivals, sharpened by competition. Magic, Bird, Thomas, they were not enemies but mirrors. And in them, Jordan saw the man he would become. Michael Jordan's journey from a rising college star to a global icon was not just a story of basketball. It was a transformation fueled by discipline, vision, and a relentless hunger to be the best. At the University of North Carolina, Jordan was more than a standout athlete. He became a symbol of resilience and work ethic. He spent hours in the gym perfecting every aspect of his game, driven by the quiet yet fiery determination to leave a mark far beyond the college courts. When he hit the game-winning shot in the 1982 NCAA championship as a freshman, the world took notice. But what followed wasn't an immediate leap to fame. Michael kept grinding, kept pushing himself, studying the game's legends, mimicking their moves, then evolving them into something uniquely his. His competitive nature wasn't just external, it lived within him, challenging him day and night. Joining the NBA in 1984 was the beginning of a new chapter. But it wasn't easy. Critics said he was too flashy, too risky. He didn't care. He let his performance speak. Game after game, he lit up the scoreboard, yet what truly separated him was the fire in his soul, a drive that refused to be dimmed, even in failure. He didn't just want to win. He wanted to dominate, to inspire, to rewrite the very definition of greatness. And all along, while the arenas roared and the cameras flashed, there was still that same quiet kid from Wilmington, thinking, dreaming, pushing, not just to be the best player on the court, but to be the best version of himself. And in doing so, he became more than a champion. Michael Jordan stepped into the NBA in 1984 as the third overall draft pick, joining the Chicago Bulls, a team struggling with identity, direction, and belief. He was young, fresh out of college, and walking into a league dominated by names like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Some doubted he could handle the pressure. Others questioned whether his college brilliance could truly translate to the professional stage. But Jordan, as always, didn't listen to the noise. His first year was nothing short of electric. Every game, every possession, he played with a fire that stunned even the most seasoned defenders. His footwork was poetry in motion, and his hang time defied gravity. But more importantly, his mindset was unshakable. Where others saw obstacles, Jordan saw opportunity. And yet, behind the scenes, he faced resistance. Veteran players often tried to humble him, challenging him in practice, testing his limits. Coaches wanted to slow his pace. Media questioned his flash and style. The so-called Jordan rules began not in Detroit, but in whispers, a quiet pushback against his rapid ascent. Michael never complained. He worked. He trained. He studied film late into the night. He showed up early, stayed late, and kept silent when others talked. He listened to the criticism not as insults, but as fuel. With every dunk, every steal, every clutch shot, he was proving something not just to the world, but to himself. By the end of his rookie season, he had earned the NBA Rookie of the Year award. But more than that, he had earned the respect of those who once doubted him. The Bulls weren't just a team anymore. They were becoming his team. And Chicago? It was starting to believe. But Jordan wasn't satisfied. Awards were just milestones. The real mission had only begun. Because greatness doesn't bloom in comfort. It grows in resistance, in doubt. And Michael Jordan, the rookie from Wilmington, was just getting started. Just as Michael Jordan's NBA journey had started gaining momentum, fate dealt him a harsh blow. In only the third game of his second season, he landed awkwardly during a fast break. The diagnosis was grim, a broken bone in his left foot. The news echoed through the locker room like thunder. For someone whose game thrived on movement, elevation, and quick bursts, this was a nightmare. Doctors advised a cautious, conservative recovery. The Bulls' management leaned toward preserving their investment, even if it meant keeping Jordan benched for the entire season. But Michael, he wasn't built for passivity. Sitting on the sidelines, watching his team struggle, tore at his soul. Each dribble he didn't take, each basket he didn't defend, it felt like a piece of his identity slipping away. He began working, quietly, obsessively. In North Carolina, away from the spotlight, he trained in secret, not just cardio or film study. He was rehabbing on his terms, often against the team's wishes. He played one-on-one games in closed gyms, slowly testing the limits of his healing body. Not to prove anything to anyone else, but because not playing was eating him alive. He needed to feel the ball again. He needed to hear the bounce echo off the hard wood, to feel sweat run down his back in rhythm with his heart. And after months of internal tension and outside concern, he came back. Not at full minutes, not at full trust from management, but back. Then came April 20th, 1986. In a playoff game against the Boston Celtics, a team loaded with legends, Jordan exploded for 63 points. It was the highest scoring game in NBA playoff history, a record that still stands. Larry Bird, stunned by the performance, would later call him God disguised as Michael Jordan. The Bulls lost that series, but something far more important happened. Jordan had sent a message. He was no longer a rising star. He was inevitable. The foot injury was supposed to slow him down. Instead, it taught him patience. It sharpened his focus. It gave him something only pain can give, a deeper hunger. From that moment on, every defender, every arena, every challenge, they weren't opponents. They were fuel. And the fire inside Michael Jordan was now unquenchable. After the legendary 63-point playoff game, Michael Jordan didn't slow down. If anything, he became obsessed, not just with scoring, but with winning. There was something in his eyes now, a constant calculation, a silent promise. I'll be back. And next time, I won't lose. The 1986-87 season was his answer. Jordan averaged a staggering 37.1 points per game, one of the highest single-season scoring averages in NBA history. He became the first player since Wilt Chamberlain to record more than 3,000 points in a season. Every night he delivered a masterclass: fadeaways, high-flying dunks, impossible mid-range jumpers. The fans were mesmerized, opponents terrified. But behind every highlight reel was a man burdened by expectations. Jordan wasn't just trying to be good, he wanted to be the best, ever. Yet greatness isn't just numbers on a scoreboard. It's sacrifice, it's leadership, it's showing up when you're exhausted, when the shots aren't falling, when the critics get louder. Michael began to transform. He started pushing his teammates harder, demanding more. Not out of arrogance, but because he knew they could be better. He wanted to win championships, not just scoring titles. But the Bulls weren't ready yet. They lacked chemistry, toughness, belief. Jordan took that personally. So he evolved. He studied. He spent hours in the film room. He lifted weights before sunrise. He worked on his left hand, his post moves, his footwork, everything. Every off-season was a laboratory. Every practice was a battle. And slowly, the results came. The Bulls began to improve, not just statistically, but spiritually. They fought harder, trusted deeper. Jordan wasn't just carrying the team, he was building one. He began to learn the art of pacing, of conserving energy, of lifting others without burning out. That balance between fury and focus was delicate, but Michael was mastering it. And while the media obsessed over his points, Jordan's eyes were locked on something else. June, the finals, the trophy. He knew scoring 40 a night wouldn't be enough. To win it all, he'd have to become more than a star. He would have to become a legend. As the 1980s neared their end, Michael Jordan had become a household name. Kids wore his jersey. Adults watched in awe. Broadcasters ran out of words to describe him. But under the spotlight, in the quiet corners of the locker room, Jordan often sat alone, wrapped in towels, not celebration. Because fame for him wasn't the finish line. It was just another test. He had scoring titles, MVP chants, and jaw-dropping highlight reels. Yet, the championship ring, the real validation, still eluded him. and that truth sat heavy on his shoulders like a silent storm. It wasn't just about basketball anymore. Jordan was carrying the weight of a city, the hopes of fans who wanted more than entertainment. They wanted a dynasty. They believed he could give it to them. And every time the Bulls fell short in the playoffs, that belief turned to pressure. Michael didn't complain. He internalized it. Late nights turned into early mornings. He started sharpening not just his body, but his mind. He watched how Magic Johnson led, how Larry Bird punished mistakes, how champions weren't just talented, they were tacticians. In those years, Jordan began to shift. He talked less and studied more. He learned to read defenses like a book. He could tell what a player would do by the way they held their shoulder. He began dictating tempo, not just reacting to the game, but controlling it. Coaches noticed, teammates noticed, opponents noticed, and so did the league. But behind the scenes, the struggle continued. The Bulls were still young, still figuring out how to play like champions. They lacked the bruising defense of the Pistons, the poise of the Celtics, the fluidity of the Lakers. And each playoff exit was a scar, one that Jordan never forgot. He used those scars. He wore them like armor. They became his fuel, proof that he hadn't arrived yet. And that truth kept him humble, kept him hungry. Because Jordan didn't want to be remembered as a highlight or a scorer or even a fan favorite. He wanted to be immortal. And deep down, he knew. Immortality requires more than brilliance. It requires heartbreak. It requires patience. It requires faith in a future only he could see. 1991, Los Angeles Lakers, Magic Johnson, Showtime Basketball, the NBA Finals. Michael Jordan had finally stepped onto the stage he had long dreamed of, but never conquered. This time, he wasn't just a player. He was a king in waiting, armed with experience, fueled by frustration, sharpened by defeat. Magic Johnson stood across from him, graceful, smiling, a veteran of the brightest lights. He had ruled this court before, and now Jordan was coming to take it. But this finals wasn't just about magic. It was about something deeper. Jordan had a question for himself. Can I be more than just a warrior? Can I lead? Can I elevate others? Years ago, the answer would have been no. Back then, he attacked. He soared. He scored. Now he orchestrated. He controlled. He led from within. In Game 2, Jordan made a move that would become eternal. He flew toward the rim, ball in his right hand, ready to slam. Mid-air, he switched to his left, software floating, effortless, and the ball kissed the glass and dropped in. The arena froze, then exploded. It wasn't just skill, it was belief. Jordan no longer hoped he belonged. He knew. In this series, he didn't just beat Magic, he transcended him. Each night, he gave more, not just points, but presence. He had become the heart of the Bulls. When the final buzzer rang, the Bulls were champions. Jordan collapsed to the floor, not with arrogance, but release. He cried, not for the trophy, but for the journey, the pain, the solitude, the doubt that haunted him for years. He wasn't alone anymore. He wasn't chasing greatness. He had become it. And from that moment on, the world would never see him the same. Success brings light, but light casts shadows. After winning his first championship, Michael Jordan stood taller, but the air grew thinner. The world saw a hero. He saw a man still chasing wholeness. Perfection had become his new rival. Every morning it stared at him in the mirror, silent, demanding, cold. He trained harder, earlier, longer, not because someone told him to, but because he did. He remembered the moments that shaped him, the times he wasn't picked, the The coaches who doubted, the quiet tears of disappointment when no one was watching. He remembered Larry. He remembered magic. He remembered that greatness wasn't a crown. It was a chain. Now the chain wrapped tighter. Every game felt like proof. Every missed shot felt like betrayal. Yet in those moments of pressure, Jordan found something deeper than dominance. He found discipline. He didn't just show up to win. He showed up to repeat. He knew the second title wouldn't be sweeter. It would be harder. The world was watching. The critics were louder. And the fire that once fueled him with dreams now burned with expectation. He walked into every arena like a man walking into battle. Not for glory, but for order, for silence, for control. Sometimes it felt like joy was slipping away. The boy from North Carolina who used to fly just to feel free, now played with the weight of a planet on his back. But even then, when the noise was loudest, he found peace in one place, the court. There, time stopped. There, the world paused.